And when we talk about that pathway into the Matildas squad, Teo, and over the years we've spoken about pressure, for example, needing to have that pressure on the defence of the Matildas with other players coming through, pushing for a spot, making sure that that pressure remains. That pathway is such an important part of that equation.
And again there, we're talking about players born 2004 to 2006. So if you're 2003 born, you might still be a teenager. You might still be 19 and you've already aged out of the young Matildas cycle.
Crazy,
and
yeah.
that's where the Liberty A-League is going to be so important, getting longer, more game time, and it takes the pressure off. I've got to get an agent. I've got to go to Europe. I've got to push on with my career in order to make it as a professional because, all of a sudden, there's nowhere else to go other than your club. So this cycle will be interesting. It's a great opportunity for Western and for Melbourne City. Credit to the two clubs for putting the young Matildas up for these games. I just want to throw a little pebble in the water. Back in the old WNBL, in the basketball, the AIS used to have a team, Brianna.
Oh, yes. Tell me anything basketball.
Yeah, and I just wonder, I know Central Coast Mariners are the next expansion team. Are we going to get to the point where a young Matildas style team,
Stop your
regardless of what city they're based in, it might have to be somewhere in New South Wales. Are we meandering towards the young Matildas being their own team in the Liberty A-League? Just going to throw that out there, but yeah.
That reminds me.
I have no inside info.
Yeah.
This is just food for thought. So.
Okay. Yeah. Look, what would they be called?
They'd be called the young Matildas.
Tillies.
Yeah, same as the AIS were. And that was when
Interesting,
we're talking a long time ago. This is back when Lauren Jackson was starting her career.
But
So
it did create that really consistent pathway for a lot of ladies, that did come into the league.
And you mentioned, Teo, at 19 you could have nothing ahead of you in terms of national team. Well, that brings in the under-23s, doesn't it?
Next time they reconvene,
so they must bring that into it. But, having a young Matildas-based team in the league would be quite interesting.
I think it would create a lot of recruitment issues as well. But I think the thing is, there's so much talk around expanding the league because you can't go and mandate to coaches and tell them who to pick. And some of the players there that were in the Young Matilda squad that aren't in A-League women's clubs at the moment are Queenslanders. Ella O'Grady is from Brisbane. And again, it comes back to sort of the one-team town discussion as well. And if you have options, if you're in Sydney, you've got Sydney FC, you've got Western City, you can go up the freeway to the Central Coast next year, you can go further up to Newcastle, you could go down to Canberra. If you're in Melbourne, you've got 3 teams. But Australia is a big country, and we produce a lot of good players in Perth, in Adelaide, in Queensland. And I just wonder, the young Matildas and Leah Blaney, the reason she's out in Bathurst is they're trying to let as few people as possible fall through that net.
Well, you've got a lot of things to consider here. Where is the team based? How are young players going to relocate? Does this narrow the pathway as well? You don't want the focus being, I need to get into that team to make it. You don't want it to be like that. The way it is currently, players playing at any club at the moment can be considered for the young Matildas. If they had a team in the competition, does that kind of put the blinkers on and make that the only pathway? There's a lot to think about in that.
That's a great point, actually.
Yeah, but
especially given my previous stances on selection and opening. I've been hoisted on my own petard here.
And also relocating players from home would be, it's a hard thing for a young person to have to move to another place, to as the only pathway. That's the only thing I'm sort of concerned about with that happening.